This is solving equations with variables on both sides. So up to this point we have been solving equations with variables either on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. Now we are going to work with solving equations that have variables on both sides of the equation. So steps for solving equations with variables on both sides. 1. You want to simplify both sides of the equation, which means combining like terms. 2. Move the variables to one side of the equation by doing inverse options. 3. Use inverse operations in order to solve for the variable. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Alright, it's real important with this step right here, simplifying both sides of the equation, that you stay on each side of the equation. If you're on different sides of the equation and trying to combine like terms, you're going to run into trouble. So let's take a look at number 1. So first we want to simplify both sides. So here's both sides of the equation, side 1, side 2. There's no like terms over here since there's only one term. Over here, negative 4x and 55 are not like terms because of the x. So move the variable to one side of the equation. Alright, notice there are variables on two sides of the equation. We want it alone on one side. So what we're going to do, the x is already alone over here. Let's move negative 4x. How do we get rid of the negative 4x and put it over here? Negative 4x. We have to add 4x on both sides. We get 13x over here equals, these cancel, 55, which is exactly what we want. And I'm sorry, not 13x, 11x. And now we're back to solving one-step equations. What is 11x? It's 11 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division. We're going to divide 11 on both sides. You get x equals 5. Number 2, are there like terms on either side? 6x is alone, so there is no like terms. Negative 3x and negative 9, are there like terms? No. Why? Because the x is only on the 3 and not the 9. So let's go ahead and start moving the variables to one side of the equation. Once again, the x is alone over here, so let's move the negative 3x over here. How are we going to get rid of negative 3x? We're going to add 3x on both sides. 6x plus 3x is 9x equals, these cancel out, which is what you want. You want them to cancel out on this side, so all the x's are on this side. And we're left with negative 9. Not 9. Notice, negative 9. How do we go from here? We have to divide by 9. So we get x equals negative 1. 3. Are there like terms on either side? Side 1, 54 minus 2x. There are no like terms there. Okay, 4x and 24 on the other side. There are no like terms over there. This is different though. We have x's on both sides and we have constants on both sides. What I like to do, what I suggest you do, is stay consistent. So move the x over to this side, over to the left. So let's move our 4x. Positive 4x we have to get rid of and switch to the other side. Positive 4, the opposite is negative 4x. So you get 54 since we have not touched that. So it's negative 2x minus 4x. You get negative 6x equals, cancels, 24. Alright, now what you're going to get is 54 minus 6x equals 24. Is the x by itself yet? No. So that means we cannot divide or multiply at all. So we have to get rid of the 24. So what we're going to do is move our 54 to the other side. How do we do that? This is a positive 54. So you're going to subtract 54 on both sides. So these cancel out, which is what you want. You're left with negative 6x equals negative 30. So how do we get x by itself? This is negative 6 times x, so what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. You're going to divide by negative 6 on both sides. So you get x equals 30 divided by negative 30 divided by negative 6 is 5. Okay. Any questions here? Please come and ask. So let's take a look here. Are there any like terms on either side? No. Negative 80 and negative 9y are not like terms. 6y and 10 are not like terms. So let's go ahead and start moving our variables to either side. So you have y's on both sides. Let's get them together. So stay consistent. 6y. How do you get rid of 6y? You have to subtract 6y on both sides. Like I said, stay consistent. If there's variables on both sides, always move the variable over to the left. Okay, so let's bring our negative 80 down since we have not touched that. So we have negative 9y minus 6y, which gives us negative 15y. Careful, please, please, please look at the sign in front of the number to determine what the term is, positive or negative. Okay, over here, the 6y and the negative 6y cancel out. That's our goal. And you get 10. Now, is our variable by itself yet? No. What is on that side? We have negative 80. How do we get rid of a negative 80? You have to add 80 on both sides now. So let's go left to right and read it. Negative 80 and 80 cancel out. We're left with negative 15y equals a positive 90. So now we have negative 15y divided or equals 90. So how do we get y by itself? We have negative 15y, or negative 15 times y. So what we have to do is just divide by negative 15 on both sides. So we get y equals, because our negative 15s cancel out, you're left with 1, but you don't need that there. Okay, so we have y equals negative 6. Next up, let's take a look. First, you got to combine or distribute is always our first step. So you have 4 times g, 4 times 7. Okay, let's rewrite this since we're not going to touch this right now. So you have 2g minus 6 equals 4 times g, 4g, and then 4 times positive 7. So positive 28. So it's 4g plus 28. Now we're going right back to where we were before. Move your g's to the left. So how do we do that? We have a positive 4g. How to get rid of a positive 4g? You subtract 4g on both sides. So left to right, let's figure out what we got. 2g minus 4g is negative 2g minus 6 equals, our 4g and negative 4g are opposites, so they cancel out. So we have positive 28 now. Okay, now we cannot divide or multiply anything because our g is not alone yet. What do we have on that side? We have a positive 6. How do we get rid of a positive or a negative 6? You add 6 on both sides. So you're left with negative 2g equals 34. Now divide, divide. You get g equals negative 17. Okay, number 6. A little bit more difficult. It's going to require more steps. You have to distribute on both sides. Now remember, distributing is multiplying the outside term by everything on the inside. So we have to first do negative 3 times q and negative 3 times positive 4. Negative 3 times q is negative 3q. Negative 3 times positive 4. Remember, a negative times a positive is always going to equal a negative. So you get negative 12 equals, same thing over here, we have to distribute again. 2 times q is 2q. 2 times positive 9 is positive 18. Now we're going to go ahead and start solving. You have q's on both sides. Move them to the left. Always move to the left. I don't care if it's positive or negative. Stay consistent. So 2q, how do we get rid of a positive 2q? We have to subtract 2q on both sides. We have negative 3q minus 2q. You get negative 5q, bring your minus 12 down. equals 2q and negative 2q. They're opposites, so we're going to cross those out and get rid of them. So we're left with positive 18. Now, we have negative 5q minus 12 equals 18. So we have to get rid of our negative 12. So you're going to go ahead and add 12 on both sides. We're left with negative 5q. Our negative 12 and positive 12 cancel out. So negative 5q equals 30. Now how do we get q by itself? Divide by negative 5, you get q equals negative 6. Okay, like always, please, when you're done watching the video, if you need to rewind and go back and ask me any questions you may have. Please do the in-class practice, and then you are done with this note section.